Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
प्रभु हेरिटेज वाले ग्रुप पे भी डाल दो।
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandat Pranam, All Glories to Prabhupada. How are you, Maharaj?
How's doing okay. It's always pleasure when the puja from the Shimala goes on.
Oh, you're coming from the altar, Maharaj?
No, I'm there only in the morning.
Mali. Okay.
But I'm saying, is the
Yeah.
opportunity, possibility.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes. Yeah. Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah,
Hare
I have
Krishna.
sent actually
Yes.
the parcel to Srimati Mataji.
You sent Maharaj?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
So yesterday, so maybe by the end of the week, she may get it.
Yes, Maharaj. So she has because there is a renovation in her room. So whenever she goes through this long thing, then her health deteriorates immediately.
Long thing means?
There was a renovation going on, some Almiras to be done. So it was a long, it took very long, Maharaj. A lot of renovation was going on in her room. She was staying in the next flat and she had to stand up and then, get, how particular Mataji is to get everything perfect. And so that took toll on her health, and this high humidity weather doesn't suit her. That's why she shifted also from Mayapur to here. One of the reasons. And so everything combined, and she's practically on the bed now, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
How old is she?
Old, I don't know, Maharaj. Must be, I don't know, Maharaj. I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah. But not too old, but because of the heart problem, then things,
Yeah, what to do?
Yes, Maharaj.
Krishna has plans for everyone.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes. Okay, Maharaj. I think devotees have joined. Hare Krishna and Pranam, dear devotees. So welcome everyone to our session with His Holiness Bhakti Arjava Priti Vardhan Maharaj. So all of us, we heartily welcome Maharaj by loudly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Holiness Bhakti Arjava Priti Vardhan Maharaj ki jai, Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
So then we are on the reading from the Bhagavad Gita. It's chapter 2, and then verses 54 to 72. Right? That's what you said, no?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So, by practicing Buddha Yoga, one develops the qualities of Sthita Pragya, a person fixed in divine consciousness. In verses 52 to 53, Krishna began describing the stages of divine consciousness. Now, in verse 54, Arjuna inquires about the symptoms of one who has achieved such position. Yes. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk?" Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur reveals the internal meaning of Arjuna's questions. What qualities can describe Sthita Pragya? Ka bhasa. What are the qualities of the person situated in Samadhi? Samadhistha. What will that person say in the face of happiness or distress, respect of disrespect, praise or condemnation? Kim prabhasheta. What will he say either loudly or to himself? In what way will his senses remain unresponsive to the external objects? Kim asita. In what way his senses respond to the objects? Brajeta kim. In verse 55, the Lord explains how a person in divine consciousness reveals his position. He is detached from sense gratification, and all his needs are fulfilled by his spiritual practice alone. In verses 56 and 57, Krishna answers Arjuna's second question, how he speaks. Or, in other words, how are his mind and words affected by others? He is not disturbed by the onslaught of the threefold miseries, indifferent to attachment, fear, and anger. So, this is actually very nicely show the difference between the conditioned soul and the soul, liberated soul. It's like Rupa Goswami, he describes, right, what is the first thing actually for the conditioned soul to go towards transcendence. So Vacha Vegam, Manasa, Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udarapashta Vegam. So one who is controlled, one who controls the senses and controls the urges, then okay, he is fine. He can do. So now Arjuna, then he is asking, what's his how does he act? What does he do? And here, then we see that such a person, then he is satisfied with spiritual practice alone. Now, that's one who is now situated actually in the divine consciousness. Before that, then the karma, krodha, lobha, moha, it's always going to be there. Then pride, envy, these qualities are there, and such people who are conditioned, then they are always going to be responding to that. So one has to be very careful. Then he controls the urges, he controls especially the desire. Like we spoke before, the only thing which the jiva can do is desire, and from desire everything else manifests. So if the desire is not fulfilled, and then krodha, lobha, moha, it just goes on. So if the desire is controlled, then everything falls into the place. So Arjuna now, he wants to know, what is the behavior? How does one recognize what is actually such person do? And we will see as like how Krishna answers to Arjuna, then he is undisturbed, he is dhira. In any situation, he is dhira. And that's the most important. Because as long as the person is conditioned, then he will see this material world as dualities. When there are dualities, so there is also the I like, I don't like. I like, I'm happy, I don't like, I'm distressed. And we are in trouble. So as long as we perceive the dualities, then the consciousness cannot be on the divine platform. That's the bottom line. So we have to we have to focus so then we can get beyond these dualities of the material world. Then all these things which Krishna is revealing to Arjuna can start manifesting. In verses 58 to 63, the Lord explained how a person fixed in transcendence sits, or how he restrains his senses from the sense objects. Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport to verse 58, the senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. The yogi or the devotee must be very strong to control the serpents, like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do-nots, and some of them are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and don'ts, restricting oneself from sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. So always remember Krishna. That's the do's, and never forget him. These are the don'ts. No. And niyama yama. No, that's what it is. The Strita Pragya is able to control his senses according to his plan. His secret is then that he has acquired a higher spiritual taste, which keeps him free from material enjoyment. In verse 60, Krishna warns Arjuna that if he prematurely renounces his duties and tries to control the senses by force, he will fall down. In the next verse, Krishna reveals that the senses can be controlled only when they are engaged in devotional service. Okay, Srila Prabhupada writes in his purports. The word matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Ambarish. Srila Bharat Vidyabhushan, a great scholar and acharya in the line of the matpara, remarks, the senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. With the words matpara, the Lord establishes that one should fix his consciousness on him and not on something impersonal. So very clear, very nicely described. Now, one thing which it's I think important to mention, we talked about it before, but where is it? So, to be able to be fixed in Krishna consciousness, then one has to be able to control the senses. Okay. Now, to be able to control the senses, to some extent, one has to be able to control his mind, because the mind is the chief sense. Now, to be able to control the mind, then one has to be, to a certain extent, free of his anarthas. Because the anarthas is a papa bija, then they are the cause of our desires. And because the anartha means unwanted, so then the desires caused by them will be unwanted. So a person or the devotee who practices devotional service, then by just following the instruction of spiritual master, the do's and don'ts, then he will come to the platform of anartha nivritti. And the process of anartha nivritti then is that most of the anarthas are either removed or then weakened. That means that the devotee still has some anarthas in the heart. He is still conditioned to some extent, but he is able to control. He's able to control his mind by his intelligence. And intelligence, being able to take reference of the Guru Sadhu Shastra, so knows what to do. And therefore, there will be some disturbances, but never too much. The devotee can still remain dhira. He can, like for example, he may not want to get up in the morning because it's cold, but previously, then he would, oh yeah, let me just not wake up because I don't feel like. So that means that he's very much conditioned. Then when becomes purified, he may still get the thought, okay, let's not wake up. It's cold. But it's not a question of not waking up because there is a need for it. You need to go for Mangalarati, you need to go do puja, you need to do so many things. So therefore, there is not even question about it. But the anartha may be there in weak form, but that doesn't affect the devotee's activities. Therefore, after the anartha nivritti, the devotee becomes nishtha. Then he becomes steady. Before that, it's the anishtha. So he actually is then this devotional practice is anishtita bhakti. But when he becomes nishtha, then it's nishtita bhakti. That means then it's steady. And as Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out, then from that point it's very quick, the progress of devotional service. So these are very important. They're very scientific, very simple, actually, but very important. These points. Okay. Now, verses 62 and 63 describe the process of downfall for a sadhaka who controls his senses but fails to engage them in devotional service of the Lord. The result of such forced meditation is that the senses inevitably find their way back to the sense objects. Srila Bharata Vidyabhushan writes in his commentary to verse 62. For the yogi who repeatedly contemplates sense objects, thinking he will derive pleasure from them, dhyayataha, attachment, sangaha, to those objects arise. Because of that attachment, the thirst for pleasure from those sense objects arises. When the longing is thwarted by something or other, anger, a burning in the heart arises to counteract the obstacle. Should be somehow or other. Anyway, so that's the principle which we were talking before: thinking, feeling, willing, acting. Now, yes, the Lord, He has given us very great benediction that in Kali Yuga, by thinking about sinful activity, it's not sin yet. So, okay, that's true. In other yugas, even just thinking about sinful activity, you are committing sin already. In Kali Yuga, not. But how much is the difference between how we think about some sinful activity and we get into the sinful activity? It's very, very small difference. So therefore, contemplating on the objects which may be cause of the sinful activity, it's basically like we will get there. Therefore, we need to develop the desire not to contemplate on sensual objects, because we may think we are in control. I can just play, in my mind, I can just play with some nonsense. But this will turn into feeling and willing. Inevitably, it will turn there. And then after that, then we are already committing sinful activity. So we should be careful. As soon as we recognize that we are thinking about some nonsense, then immediately try to cut it off. Not thinking that we are in control of what we can do, what the mind cannot think. We are not in control. We should not be fooled by that. So for an impersonalist, there are two possibilities. He can either reject the sense object or try to enjoy them. Bhoga, tyag. Both positions are unnatural for the living entity and cannot be maintained permanently. The devotee of the Lord, however, is not afraid to act with the senses because he knows how to engage everything in Krishna's service. In the purport to verse 63, Srila Prabhupada writes, by development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows that to use everything in the service of the Lord, therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. The impersonalist, therefore, cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. So again, that's very, very important point, to be able to dovetail everything in Krishna consciousness. So in other words, whatever we do, we should perform yoga. So karma and yoga connected to the Lord. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes not so easy, but we should always endeavor to find the connection. How can this activity I'm doing, how can I connect it to Krishna? And either it should be then sakama or nishkama, but we should always be looking for how we can connect that to Krishna. Because without that, then there is also like, the word yukta vairagya, just the renunciation, right? And in Krishna consciousness. Now, we have to be very careful about that, because if we are not honest to ourselves, so under that, we can just pass anything. You can buy anything you want. You can enjoy anything you want. Oh, Prabhu, Yukta Vairagya, I am doing it for Krishna's pleasure. And this is many times cause of a downfall. So be very careful. Don't abuse this word, the Yukta Vairagya. We should actually be seeing that what we are going to use, how we are going to use it, it's in line with Guru Saru Shastra. Sometimes it's more important, sometimes easier, sometimes maybe not so easy. But we should nonetheless keep always trying. Otherwise, we will fall for a nonsense. That's given. In verses 64 to 72, the Lord answers the last question of Arjuna. How does he walk? How the person in divine consciousness engages his senses. The Sthita Pragya is free from the dualities of Bhoga and Tyag because he acts on behalf of Krishna. He is satisfied in Krishna consciousness, and he is fixed in the Lord. Verses 66 and 67 describe the position of a person who is not connected with the Supreme and therefore fails to control his senses. He cannot achieve peace and happiness. On the other hand, the devotees of the Lord are in perfect peace because they don't have desires to enjoy or to renounce the world. Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport to verse 17. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the river that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities, and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclination for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady, like the ocean, and therefore enjoy full peace. Yeah. Well, that's a description of somebody who is dhira and remains dhira. But sometimes, no, we may actually even see such a person, we may meet such a person, but we may actually think that he is weird, that he is not able to enjoy, and then he is not feeling sad that something bad happens to him. But we should know that these things, no, sukha, dukkha, that's a duality. So if somebody is actually able to be above the dualities, we should not think about him as that he is weird, but rather that he is very advanced. It's something which all the people are looking for, just how one can be situated in peace. Okay, the natural and ultimate progression of knowledge is bhakti. Bhagavad Gita confirms this in several places. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Bhagavad Gita 7:19. One who is factually convinced of the opulence and mystic powers of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly knows this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Bhagavad Gita 10:7-8. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting, he is knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. Bhagavad Gita 5:19. In other words, it's knowing, it's not the knowledge. The knowledge we can read. Oh, yeah, okay, I know that Krishna is the Supreme. But it's the applied knowledge, it's the Vigyan, which we have to be now very concerned about. So that's what Krishna talks about here. So one who knows me as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, one who is realized. And how do we become realized? Because we don't know Krishna, but devotees do. So association with devotees, satsanga, that's the way. In the renunciation through wisdom, in the chapter entitled Bhakti resides in the perfect knowledge of the Supreme, Srila Prabhupada writes, wherever the word Gyan appears in the Vedic literature, it should be understood to mean Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of the relationship between the Lord and his energies. It does not refer to the impersonalist concept of the Supreme. After a person understands Sambandha Gyan, he comes to the stage of Abhidheya Gyan, knowledge of how to act in his relationship with the Supreme Lord. This is devotional service, practiced by liberated souls. The matured stage of Abhidheya Gyan leads to love of God, the ultimate goal of all living entities, or Prayojana. So, real knowledge must lead to devotional service. When devotional service is based on knowledge, it is factual and steady. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 7:102, purport. Srila Prabhupada summarizes the second chapter in his purport to verse 72. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has summarized this second chapter on the Bhagavad Gita as being the content for the whole text. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents of the complete text, for the complete text. The conclusion that Arjuna should fight was established by the Lord in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. The physical activity thus being settled, the Lord will gradually refine Arjuna's motivation from Karma Kanda through Karma Yoga to pure Bhakti. The second chapter reveals the real nature of the soul. In the next chapters, the Lord will explain the method of realizing this nature by Naishkarmya. Hare Krishna. So then that's the end of the chapter 2. Now, some questions are there.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Devotees, do we have any questions from what we read today? Maharaj, one question I had, that this Dhira Purush, we speak so many times about being Dhira. And like you said, that sometimes when we become passive to the material situation, then we are often looked upon as dry, that somebody who doesn't have emotions, and say that devotees need to have a soft heart, and gives the example, what would he give an example? Arjun, see, he was soft-hearted, even if he's bewildered, but he didn't want to fight, and he had emotions, and devotees have emotion. And if we become very dry, then we can speak about the absolute truth, but we will not have much relationship left. So how do we understand that, Maharaj?
See, it's not that devotees are devoid of some emotions, but just how the emotions are directed. Similar, maybe the understanding of this can be connected to what is the difference between affection and attachment. So they look very similar. Mother is affectionate to the child, or mother is attached to the child. No, it's the external symptoms will look very similar. No, maybe some hugging, no, some kissing, or it may be no anything, nice talking, but the major difference between affection and attachment is that whatever the activities are going on, if the one person is affectionate to the other, then he is doing it for him. It's about the other person, not me. Attachment, the same activities can be done, but it's not about the other person, it's for me. So in affection, one is giving to the other people. In attachment, one is taking from the people for himself. So for the devotee, you can see that more maturity is, then he is able to give. But what is he going to give? Now, he knows what is the most important. So like a good doctor, now he is not going to be, now when he sees somebody's like some very serious injury, no, he's not going to be smiling at him. Oh, everything is fine. Just relax and everything. No, he may actually seemingly be even hurting the person. He's going to be cutting him. He's going to be stitching him. He is going to be maybe pouring some alcohol kind of like it to disinfect, which will hurt. So it may appear that he is hurting the person more, but he is doing it for him. He knows. So the devotee, like Srila Prabhupada. Now there was the flood in it was in Bengal, I think, and the government, they requested him, please come and distribute food here. And now Srila Prabhupada said, okay, so but can do Harinam? No, Harinam, just food distribute. Then we are not going. It's like prasad distribution. If it's done like a food distribution, then it doesn't have a meaning for us. The prasad is distributed together with the holy name. So these are the important aspects. So the devotee, he may appear very dry because just chant Hare Krishna, you'll be happy. But that's the fact. That's the topmost. Study Prabhupada's book. That will make you happy. You will be. But we don't want to hear it. We want to hear give me something and more entertaining. But the devotee, then he knows this is not the best. So he is trying to give his best. After that, the devotee may actually realize, okay, that person, he is not able to take the topmost. So give whatever it's the level below. So then he can progress. Like Srila Prabhupada, he comes and he is the elevated devotee, but he comes to America and he sees all these people. They are illicit sex. They are taking drugs. They are gambling, meat eaters. Everything what Srila Prabhupada would not ever do. But he stuck there and he changed them completely by his association. These are the thing which one can do with the proper consciousness. So, yeah, that's that should be our focus.
Thank you, Maharaj. That example of attachment versus affection was very good, Maharaj. And also sometimes we also hanker for their thing also, that whether we want to earn their I don't know what word I use, we are worried more for people's opinion, I can say,
Yeah.
That's why.
But that's due to our false ego, because we feel that we are that person and we actually care about what others think about us, because we have certain respect from those people. Now, if something is not right, then I lose my respect. And if I am not clear about that this is my ahankar, which is telling me that, then I'm afraid what's going to happen to me. And nowadays, when the people are on the social media, then they are mostly depressed, because according to that, everybody is better than me. No. Anyway.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, devotees, do we have any question? Because this is an important part. Maharaj explained Dhir Purush and how to, so we should see what is practical and what practical difficulties we face in our daily life in trying to implement what Maharaj is speaking or from Bhagavad Gita. It is,
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, one question here, like here when Arjun asks the question of that how does a sthit pragya sit?
Prabhu, your voice is not well. Can you speak a little louder?
Okay, 1 second. Hare Krishna. Is it better, Prabhuji?
Yes, very good. Now very good.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, so in one of the verses that we read today, that Arjuna is asking that how does a sthit pragya or a dhir sits, right? But in but when we do, when we follow the Krishna consciousness, but our movement is all about preaching. So how do we relate that the sitting posture, which is for a dheer, does that mean that he's actually asking for some asana to be performed or something? But when we look at our Krishna consciousness movement, it is preaching, which is actually going out. So how do we relate these two, Maharaj?
See, actually, no, the sit, when he talks about sitting, so it encompasses all the working senses. So it's how do you control your working senses? So you have the knowledge acquiring senses and the working senses. So how do you sit? Okay, so what do you sit for? Or where do you walk? How do you walk? How do you use your hands? So all that's all in that little meaning. So it's about the controlling the senses. As Srila Prabhupada explains.
So is this the understanding correct, that it is the purpose of that how he utilizes his senses for the Lord?
Yes. So now, ultimately, the Naishkarmya, now that we don't really care for ourselves, but we use everything. So you walk, to the temple. You walk to take darshan. But at the same time, you also walk and be very careful not to harm other living entities. Use your hands to collect and to perform devotional activities. So to collect some bhoga, offer it, or to collect some flowers, offer it, or to hold book, read, and you can use your knowledge acquiring senses. So everything is connected. So how you make them actually work together, that's the mind. So if your mind is set that you want to remember Krishna, then all the senses will seamlessly work. But if the mind is disturbed and it's not Krishna, then you will use the senses differently for yourself, not in connection with Krishna. And that will be bad.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes? Yeah.
Maharaj, one more thing that I wanted to clarify, my understanding, you spoke about that to control senses, like mind is also one of the senses which is very difficult to control. And the reason that we are not able to control is because of the anarthas that we have. And as we follow the Guru Sadhu Shastra, then we are able to control or bring the anarthas to little lower level so that the mind starts getting in control. And then we are able to control the senses, because otherwise sense control is very difficult. Is that the right understanding, Maharaj?
Yeah.
So the state of anarth nivritti.
During the anishtita stage, so the senses, actually the mind, is in control of the intelligence. So the senses are agitated, and the mind is going to abuse your intelligence to make it happen. So then you can perform the sense gratification you want, or the mind wants. Because you don't have control. You just fall for it. You just follow what you like and don't follow what you don't like. That's the criteria. And it's due to the strong anarthas in the heart. You cannot really do much about it. But when the anarthas get purified, then you start gaining control over. So the subtle disturbances, to say so, they'll be still there, but you have control over them. You are able to say no. Like during japa, in the beginning, it's just chanting, but you are thinking about everything else than japa. But as you are being more and more focused, so with practice, the focus on chanting japa, it's stronger. And now, if you desire to develop more focus, you will. And it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's the meaning of that we are trying to actually be more focused, and that focus is by then our anarthas are being purified. So anartha nivritti doesn't mean that all the anarthas are gone, but they are weaker, or some are gone to the extent that now you can, with your intelligence, control your mind. So just switch it. So what you know is the best thing to do, you do. The mind can attempt not to distract you, but the desire is not so strong. So therefore, you won't let the mind. You understand?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. So no more questions. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for giving us your divine association and explaining these difficult aspects of Krishna consciousness, practical aspects for us. So all of us, we heartily thank Maharaj by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. His Holiness Bhakti Arjava Priti Vardhan Maharaj ki jai. Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.